Ladies and bees and gentlemen, it's time to kick this off with the legend himself. Before Huntrix, before Fourtown, and before Gazelle, he was the music sensation from a computer-animated movie and still remains as the OG. And now, making his big comeback, let's give it up for Biggie Cheese!
She call me Mr. Bombastic, fully fantastic. Touch me on me back, she says I'm Mr. Rowe.
Barnyard. This may be set on the farm, but I know that I'm about to get into a wild movie. Coincidentally, it wasn't that long ago prior to this that I looked into Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, which had a very fascinating history where he went from being one of the pioneers of computer animation to one of the first movies nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars to a fan-favorite series on Nickelodeon. But just as the show was about to end in 2006, the network and one of the people behind The Boy Genius, Steve Oedekerk, were ready to release a new IP that could possibly be their next CG star. But instead of bringing audiences to brain-blasting sci-fi adventures, they unleashed some rebellious animals.
That's called boy tipping!
Believe it or not, the idea of Barnyard wasn't just before Jimmy Neutron was made, but Oedekerk stated that he thought about it before Toy Story came to theaters, pitching a CG comedy about farm animals when the humans are out of sight. It wasn't until after the success of The Boy Genius when Nickelodeon took a look at the concept and finally gave Otis the opportunity he was looking for. From there, Barnyard hoped that it could be the next Jimmy Neutron, but while it did went as far as getting its own series with 2 whole seasons, the animals were not able to make that lightning strike twice. I even remember back in my early teens when I not only watched some of the episodes of the show, but I also went to see the movie when it was out in theaters. Admittedly, I did recall somewhat enjoying them at the time, but I never got into them as much as I did with Jimmy Neutron. And yet, this is not to say that Barnyard was left forgotten by the public. Nowadays, it's one of those weird animated franchises that is considered a great source for absurd memes. In fact, there is a good chance that you have shared at least one of them during your time on social media. But now that we're going to the farm without the farmer, does Otis and the gang know how to party? Or are these cows better off as burgers than movie characters? Let's find out. The story. At first, this may look like a boringly generic animated film that features animals having their own secret lives when no one is looking, but just like the characters on the farm, Barnyard is a lot more different than what you'd expect when it reveals its true colors. I'd even say that it's so different that not even the movie itself knows what it wants to be.
What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What?
I'm gonna let you know now that there's going to be one word that I'll be repeating throughout this review because it's the only way to describe this feature. And that is weird. Just about every creative choice in this picture mainly adds to the strange nature of the experience, regardless if it makes it better or worse. And the core of this aspect comes from the film's indecision of its own identity. On one hand, it wants to tell an emotional story about Otis, who has to learn to grow out of his rebellious partying phase and to become a responsible leader like his adoptive dad Ben, so that he can protect the animals from the gang of hungry coyotes.
Everyone here, they all trust me, and I can't protect a single one of them. Ugh.
But at the same time, it also wants to be an over-the-top cartoon where it delivers comedy that is about the absurdity of the scene's situations. Of course, there's nothing wrong with blending heart and humor. It's often the basis of a good animated film. But in the case of Barnyard, those two elements cannot be any more opposites. There is no way that they are capable of combining them into something that feels consistent. And yet, it still tries to make the connection, and it results in possibly the most outrageous tone shift ever featured in an animated movie. Acting like Wild Mike as it maniacally jumps from one extreme to another, where you never know what it'll do next in a manner that's more concerning than enjoyable. You'll have one scene where the animals are mourning over the loss of a longtime friend on the farm, and then a few minutes later, they're causing complete chaos with everyone doing their own circus act, parachuting turtles, and horses river dancing on stage. And since the comedy already emphasizes how crazy it can get, this continuous tonal whiplash adds more to the movie's general weirdness, expecting audiences to just go with the flow whenever the animals go out of control, and then suddenly gets emotional about Otis as he struggles with his new position as the farm's leader. From my experience, I never knew how to react to what was going on as I tried to register what happened in the previous scene when it already moved on to something completely different with an entirely new mood. The only thing I could ask is just, what is happening after every tone shift and every moment of shenanigans that keeps showing up? I don't even know what's crazier, when it tries to be funny by going straight up loony, or when it tries to become an entirely different movie by trying to be heartfelt right afterwards.
Would you not do that?
It's not like we have a lot of options.
And the wildest thing about all this is that when looking at those two parts individually, they're honestly not that bad. When the film is more serious, there was some good effort to build an effective heart that highlights the bond between Otis and Ben, and how the former struggles to rank up to the latter's level to take care of his community.
I guess you helped me realize that. I love you, son.
And when it wants to be funny, while I wouldn't call this hilarious, there are times when the absurdity does work to get a laugh from the sheer randomness of either the scene itself or the personalities within. If the movie chose to be more of one than the other, it could have worked a lot better as a whole because it does have the materials needed to make an entertaining feature, regardless if it wants to be more emotional or comical. But when trying to do both, it ends up as a mess as the two elements are just thinly connected while the story itself only occasionally pops up to act like the farm equivalent of The Lion King. There are some things that it could do right to be somewhat engaging, but the weirdness of the narrative structure dominates the tone of the picture that it makes it hard to know how to feel about the whole experience. I even had a tough time myself knowing what to rate this, but I think I'll go with a 5 out of 10 on the story. There are times when I did honestly get into it, but only when it gave me room to do so while the plot goes on this roller coaster that makes it hard to follow. It does have heart and humor, but the film keeps short-circuiting when it tries to connect them together. The animation. If you thought the weirdness ends with the story structure, oh, we only just begun to explore the surreal realm that is Barnyard. As much as the story can get unusual, the same can be said with the animation, where the more you look at how it was visually built, the less it makes any sense. I'll say now that I won't blame people if they don't think that the movie looks appealing, especially with the design of the animals. With a few exceptions, they look like if someone tried to draw the Arnman style from memory so that they could make their own version of creature comforts. It's funny how it came out in 2006, yet the designs feel like they originated from the 90s. Well, from what I've researched, there's actually an explanation for that. It's because it is from the 90s.
Why do you do this to me? How do you think that makes me look?
So this is about you.
Like I mentioned at the start of this review, the concept of Barnyard was said to be developed before Toy Story was released, and at the time, Oedekerk and his team created a pitch reel so that it could convince someone to one day make it real.
So they got lucky this time. Hey, it happens. Whew.
And as you could see with these characters, they didn't change much since the reel. So to go back to the movie, this is where it gets more confusing. I understand having that style back then because of the technological limitations, and computer animation was still considered a new concept. But again, the movie was released in 2006. The tech received a big upgrade since then, and it was when features like Cars and Happy Feet were released to further advance the medium. Even with the context of where the designs came from, it makes me wonder, why did they make a computer animated feature look like it was done a whole decade ago?
That does not apply to this. This is a totally situationally different suspect.
And much like the tone, it tries to fuse these two elements that just won't work together. These are concepts from the 90s that is being brought to life with technology from the 2000s. And it just adds to the off-putting sense when they have those textures that stick out in unnatural ways, lighting that emphasizes that there's something wrong with the models, and teeth that make their smile disturbing. Especially those that are cylindrical that look like you could play the xylophone on them. Not to mention how a few characters look like they were formed by a glitch. And the craziest part is that they never had to stay that way because the designs came from a pitch reel. Since the movie is technically Barnyard's debut, this was the opportunity to make the animals' looks be more refined and appealing. It's not like either Goddard from Jimmy Neutron or the Toy Story characters. Those are objects with simple designs that come to life who can look convincing regardless if they're either from the 90s or the 2020s. This is not something that can be achieved with organic beings like animals. Some could argue that this is just a style, but even when it came out, I find the style to be a bit outdated.
I don't want any of you to have to listen to me.
Don't listen to him.
Stop doing what I say!
But this is not to say that everything in the animation is uncomfortable to look at. There is an aspect to it where the visuals are more advanced than the real and can look good. This is evident with the character animation, where the most creative efforts were put onto how the animals go wild. And while some can seem a bit off with their limited design, others are able to do well with being dynamic with their expressions and poses in order to make the most out of their personalities.
I could just eat your head right off. I mean, it's fun up here.
I'll give it that, with its large roster of animals in the farm, it does make the most with how they party and play with their respective species to make the wackiness look fun, along with putting some bright colors to give the film some appeal. But outside of that, there isn't much else that the movie visually offers. Sure, it goes all out when Otis parties and goes out with his friends, but there's next to nothing else that's memorable. Especially when the background is mostly just a farm in the middle of a giant field. The only clever thing it does is how the film's logo is a permanent fixture of the farm. And as I was watching this, a part of me wondered if maybe they did this because of either budget limitations, or they just wanted to keep it all simple to later reuse those assets for the series. But that argument falls apart when you look at what Jimmy Neutron did and was able to go extra with a budget lower than Barnyard. I mean, when the whole premise of the feature is just farm animals who like to party when no one is watching them, you end up being so limited to the point that it can make you go insane. Which is exactly what happened to this movie.
Frankie, come here. Frankie, come here. No, I'm not. Come here. I'm not gonna hurt you. Frankie, come here. I know you're gonna do that again.
I know I've been pretty critical towards the animation, but this is not to say that it's terrible. I've seen plenty of films that look much worse than this. The reason why I brought all those points up is to show how the animation is, well, weird. It's a 2000s movie still believing that it has the technical limitations of the 90s. And while the animators were still able to be creative with the characters and gags, it's as if all the energy was put onto that than to try more with its concept. That's why I'll be giving the animation a 5 out of 10. I can recognize the good work put into it, but I've never seen such a peculiar visual direction quite like this. The characters. Now this is the part where I am convinced that some creative choices were made in preparation to make this a full franchise. Yes, this is set on a farm, but I didn't expect that this would have an entire farm's worth of characters, valuing quantity over quality so that most can set up their eventual time to shine in an episode of the series. On paper, their personalities are the typical tropes that are regularly found in family films like this, so they don't have much to offer with how they play in the story. However, what sets them apart from other characters with similar roles is their quirks that contribute to the comedy. If I didn't make it clear enough, this is an absolute oddball of a movie. But the characters are the sprinkles put on top that each add a little more insanity and unpredictable chaos to the experience. And considering how there's a lot of characters, that's a lot of sprinkles to cause this to go nuts.
Hey! Sorry, man. Just pellet.
And to start on this farm, we have a cow named Otis, which is already weird enough that he is a cow since cows are all female and he clearly has udders, yet he identifies as a male and bulls do exist in this film, but there actually is a very easy explanation to all this. Otis is trans. He's the rebellious partygoer that has to learn how to be a responsible leader like his dad Ben, who is the opposite by being very disciplined and serious with his role, but the one thing he cares the most is Otis. And once he takes the lead, he has to learn about responsibility and the meaning of his dad saying about what a stronger man would do.
A strong man stands up for himself. A stronger man stands up for others.
While not the most original character, I will give him that he does have a good balance of mischievous charisma and selfless heart that makes his arc go smoothly as he progressively becomes more mature. There could have been a lot of ways for Otis to be unbearable, but surprisingly, this movie was able to get him right.
Yeah, that's that saying thing, right? A strong man stands up for himself, a stronger man can bridge the gap between...
As for his friends, other than the other cows who join him in
Boy tipping!
they're mainly the comedic sidekicks who participate more in the strangeness than in the story, including Pig, who always eats and somehow has a bee in his nose.
Hey, Pig. I think there's a dead bee in your nostril.
Oh. Well, it's not dead.
Pip is Otis's acrobatic and loyal second-in-command who thinks he has a shot with a sassy Wanda Sykes cow.
And I'm here for you, too.
Hey! And Freddy is always trying to bottle his urges of eating the chickens, especially when he's always paired up with Peck.
What? I'm not hungry. I mean, I don't want to eat anyone. You. Huh? What happened? What?
There is also Miles, who is like the wise mentor that helps Otis and Ben go in the right direction. And when things go wrong, his only solution is to kick the problem.
Will you stop doing that?
Well, unless you get him a blindfold, I'm gonna kick him.
As for most of the others, again, they're just meant to present their little quirks in preparation for the series, or just to add to the film's oddity like the rooster, the dog, the gophers, the band, and Wild Mike, whom his species remains a mystery. Maybe he's a hairy Tasmanian devil? Animal's cousin? That freak from the honeycomb commercials? Your guess is pretty much as good as mine.
Look at that freaky thing.
What kind of animal is that?
I don't know, but he sure can dance!
The same can be said with the humans, like with the clueless farmer, the cow-tipping kid who is literally called Snotty Boy, the dumb pizza delivery twins, and the neighbors Nora and Nathan, which I believe there were some choices made when animating Nora. Not only was she given a strong amount of curves, but she also has more jiggle physics than necessary. There is no way that the animators didn't do that on purpose.
What do you mean, what now? My car is on TV, and I think there's a cow in it.
The only characters outside of Otis, Ben, and maybe Miles who matter to the story are possibly the least memorable ones, like Daisy, Otis's pregnant love interest who just came to the farm, Maddie, a baby chick who is the cute friend of the cow, and the villains of the feature, the Coyotes, led by the pre-pirate Foxy Dag, who are the hungry predators that act like the mob.
Oh, and Ben's kid. If you should think about getting a sudden burst of courage, we slaughter every animal in sight.
Now, from the list that I showed you, it does feel like the characters are mixed at best. However, they do have one thing that I consider to be one of the movie's better assets, and that is the voice acting. Of course, there are plenty of recognizable voice actors who sign on to the whole franchise and even came from Jimmy Neutron like Rob Paulsen and the late Jeff Garcia, but the celebrity voices are actually the standouts here, playing a big part in giving the feature its heart like Sam Elliott, Courtney Cox, Danny Glover, and even Kevin James surprisingly does well to maintain the heart and humor of Otis.
You still want to go, don't you?
Yeah, I really do. Not that your stuff, the stuff you're saying isn't nifty and everything. It's just...
No one says nifty.
On one hand, it's not really a great cast of characters where there's too many of them to the point of not having enough room to make a meaningful impact to the picture, and the only way that they can be memorable is by being randomly weird in their own style. Then again, I will say that they are among the better parts of the feature where they deliver a strong voice cast and the leads do well to carry the film's emotional core. This one was also tricky to figure out a rating that's a good fit here, but I think I'll settle with a 6 out of 10 for the characters. Just like Otis, they could try to be responsible to do some good, but more often than not, their quirks can get the best of them for better or worse. In all my years, I've watched hundreds of animated features, many of which I've also reviewed. But I can honestly say that I've never seen one quite like this and feel so perplexed about it. Barnyard can be best described as the cow tools of animated movies. What was supposed to be a simple cartoon starring a cow on a farm became something whose existence alone is so bizarre that it's more fascinating than funny. And that weirdness is how it managed to find its own fame. I will give it that it does have some good things that can be found here. The voice acting is well done, the heart works well to deliver a message about leadership and responsibility, the animals can visually be fun and dynamic, and the main characters can carry the film well. But when it has flaws, it's not that they're really bad, it's just that they cause the film to go completely haywire with the most erratic tone that goes all over the place, comedy that cranks the absurdity to the max, computer animation that somehow thinks it's still in the 90s, and a whole farm's worth of characters who can only make an impact by making things weirder. The best that I could recommend is for you to watch it at least once, but I cannot promise if you'll enjoy it. At best, it's an acquired taste where its strangeness is a make-or-break deal. You'll either love it like it's an unhinged YouTube poop, or you'll hate it for being like a roller coaster where you question its safety when it's too late. Either way, it's an experience. And if you enjoyed this experience, then give this a like and subscribe to my channel. You could join me in checking out more crazy animated films, but maybe not as crazy as this one. I know I don't normally do this, but considering that Barnyard is such a uniquely weird case of an animated feature, I think I have no choice but to...
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Oh, here's one from Sally, age 14. Dear Pig, aren't you interrupting the story at the most suspenseful part? Well, the answer is yes, Sally. Yes, I am. Keep those cards and letters coming.
Hey guys, this is Animat, and I want to start things off by giving out a huge thanks to Joseph DeSena, whose amazing support on Patreon allowed him to get some amazing rewards, including this one, where he got to ask me to review Barnyard. And yeah, what a unique feature this was. Now, rather if that's a compliment or an insult, well, that's going to be up to you. Because this is honestly one of those movies that if someone would go and tell me that they either loved or hate Barnyard, then honestly, I would totally believe them, even if it's for the exact same reasons. Like, if someone would go and tell me that they really enjoy Barnyard, they've always been a fan of it, they love the movie and all that kind of stuff, I get it, because there are some positive things from it. The emotional core is very strong, like I mentioned in the review, where you really do feel for the bond between Otis and Ben, and especially with the character build-up or the character arc of Otis. Like, yeah, a lot of it does sound like The Lion King, but it does manage to work in its own way, at least I find. And also with the comedy, sure, it could be an acquired taste, but it does have that bizarre nature that I could see that it can have its audience. And I'll even admit that even for me, like, yeah, there are times when it can definitely be funny just by the sheer weirdness and randomness of it all. I mean, keep in mind, this is from the same filmmaker that brought us Kung Pao, so Steve Oedekerk does know his comedy. And yeah, there are some examples that can be found where there are moments that are funny in Barnyard. But at the same time, if someone would go and tell me that they hated it, then I completely understand. And even if it's for the exact same reasons why someone would go and love it, then it makes sense because, yeah, this is not necessarily for everyone. This is not for everyone where, like, maybe the tone shift is a little too extreme for you. Maybe the bizarre nature is not really your cup of tea in terms of comedy. Like, there are going to be some people that will absolutely be put off by this. So either way, I understand both sides of the argument, and that's why I want to go and tell you that it is worth watching at least once to see which side you may be. Maybe you'll discover a new classic comedy that you may love, or you may discover another movie that you may absolutely despise. It all depends on your taste and your style of humor that you would go and enjoy. Either way, it's worth trying at least once. And I'll even say, as for me, I feel like it wouldn't be impossible if I would want to go and revisit Barnyard. I would just have to be in the right mindset and I would have to be in the right mood. It's one of those films like I need to be in like specific circumstances where I would feel like I want to rewatch Barnyard and I'll be able to go and fully enjoy the strangeness that it would go and deliver. So overall, either way, like whichever side that you may be on the whole discussion of Barnyard, and maybe like in terms of my review, like there are some things you do agree or you may disagree with, but I think we can all unanimously agree on one thing, and that is the fact that Barnyard is weird. And with that said, I think that should do it for Barnyard, and now it is time that we shall go and move on to the animation hat. Yes, and by the way, before I go and pick the next review, if you guys would like to be like Joseph and you want to go and support my work and get some amazing rewards, including but not limited to seeing my videos before anyone else, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. But at the same time, if you would like to suggest an animated film you would like me to review and that I would put onto the animation hat, then all you have to do is write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. And with that said, let's go and see what our next movie is going to be. All right, come on. If we could go and pick one. Just got to make sure. Oh, wait. Oh, I keep, it's like some of them got into my hand, but they just dropped. But I did get one here. All right, so the next review shall now be, let's see now, what the, oh, this is interesting. Okay. Oh, okay. This will be fascinating because, well, as of this review, it wasn't that long ago that I actually looked upon the sequel. And the funny thing is that regardless if you have seen it or not, you probably have heard of it because right now, it is the biggest animated movie of all time. Like right now, as of this review, it is like not only the highest grossing animated feature in history, but it is also among the top 5 highest grossing films ever. But I'm not going to be looking at that feature in particular because, well, I've already seen it. I've already talked about it. I've already made a whole review of it. But I'm going to be looking at the original where that sequel came from.
Give it up for the one and only Big and Cheese.